This meeting of the Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, May 15th, 2023 to order. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Howard,
Here.
Commissioner Hunt,
Here.
Commissioner Mark, Commissioner Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Chairman Booker,
Here.
Chairman Jones.
Here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you, if you will, please, let's all stand together as Mr. Grady will lead us in prayer. Then I ask you to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
Almighty and eternal God, you have blessed us with creation and made us fellow workers in bringing about your kingdom. So draw our hearts to you, so guide our minds, so fill our imaginations, that we may have insight into your purposes for our county, and wisdom and determination in providing for its future, that in all our works begun, continued, and ended in you, we may glorify you in our care for all your people. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We welcome all of you here this morning. Thank you for taking your time to be at this Board of Commissioners meeting, which is your meeting. For those that may be viewing online, we welcome you this morning. I would ask that those in attendance, if we could, to make sure that our phones are on silence, and I had to do the same to not disrupt this meeting, and we would appreciate that. Commissioners, you have before you your agenda packets. Are there any items that you desire to add or pull from today's agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the agenda? I have a motion and a second. I would tell you that and I don't think we have to add this to the agenda, but I am going to put a chairman's privilege at the beginning. Is there any objection to that? Hearing none, we would add that in with approving the agenda. We have the motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Chairman's privilege this morning. I'm going to ask the county manager to take it from here, and he's going to introduce some folks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really excited this morning to have a couple folks with us. Last Wednesday, I was able to attend the Craven County Health Foundation annual hospice breakfast, and I found it to be very moving experience, and mainly because of the volunteers and the staff and the folks who participate in this program with us as a county. Scott, if you wouldn't mind, I'll ask you just to say a couple words about the foundation and the event last Wednesday, kind of what you guys are up to in the hospice program, and then introduce Ms. Warren, Sharon Warren, to give a couple words, if you don't mind. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to speak on this. But Mr. Veit is absolutely correct. It was a great ceremony, and annually we have this foundation breakfast to raise funds and awareness for the hospice program operated under the health department. And we have a foundation, a public health foundation that was set up back in 1997, which is separate and apart from the county, that gives folks an avenue to donate their funding to a 501c3 outside of the county government, and that way they are assured that it goes to the programs operated for which they donate. And it was started as a hospice fundraising arm years ago, and we have a separate foundation board, and our board chair, Ms. Sharon, is here, and she can definitely speak more to some of the particulars about what has gone on with the foundation. So I do not want to steal her thunder. Ms. Sharon Warren.
Morning, Ms. Warren.
Good morning, and thank you for having me today. As Scott related to you, we are the Craven County Health Department Foundation. We are a 501c3 organization, and most of the monies that we raised last Wednesday goes towards the benefiting of our hospice patients. The foundation provides assistance to programs that hospice provides, especially the respite program that I spoke about last week. In this respite program, the CNAs provide 6 hours weekly to our hospice families. We don't consider just assisting the hospice patient, we consider assisting the entire family. The caregiver needs time to go out and run errands and take care of other demands, and during this respite time, they are able to do that. As a hospice volunteer since 2008, and having had some folks in the Cove City area, all the way out to Flanners Beach, all the way out to Havelock, for them to drive into town, run their errands, and come back, you cannot do that within a short period of time, an hour. So we provide 3 hours twice a week, and then many times our volunteers follow up and provide another hour or two so that they can also take care of some of personal needs of their time. As I mentioned, we direct our foundation monies to the hospice program. Besides the respite, we also have bereavement care, which helps the families. Our chaplain, we are a system that has many parts to it, and we continue to support those parts. Scott, I don't think that he mentioned it, but as of Friday afternoon, we have so far taken in $40,000. And that is going to provide a lot of respite care for our families. So we do appreciate the commissioner's support. You are an integral part of the community, and with your support, we know that this respite program is going to be able to continue for many years. And I thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Commissioners, you have any comments?
I would like to add that being on the board of the health department, I get a hospice report every month. And for the public's information, at present, we have like 35 people, roughly. That's what it was a week ago.
Yes.
35 people in hospice care by our county hospice department. And the nurses in that group are fantastic. One of my friends recently passed away, and he was in hospice care for about 2 or 3 months. And it was just terrific, the care that he got. So from a personal standpoint, I'm very pleased with what the hospice group does, and especially what you and the volunteers do.
Well, thank you.
To help them.
Yes, the nurses took care of approximately 140 patients last year, giving them personal care, quality care, and compassionate care. And if I may add one more thing, to show our support for all of those families, we have a memorial service that we would welcome all of you to come to. We usually have that at the beginning of December, and it's a way of putting some type of closure to all of those families. St. Paul's Catholic Church has been our host church the last couple of years. The Tryon chapter of the Embroiderers Guild of America, they provide these 3x5 pillows with a dove on it with the name of their deceased loved ones. We have a tree that they then put the pillow on, and we have our service, and then that tree goes to, and Captain Raddy's has been our gracious host the past couple of years. That tree is on display during the month of December, just to make the public aware of Craven County Hospice, which is your hometown hospice, and then we afterwards deliver those. So we are constantly involved with our patients. Even after the memorial service, that doesn't mean that we follow with them a whole year. And then if they need more help after that, we will also provide it. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other comments? I would just say on behalf of my family, hospice cared for my grandfather in his last few months of his life, and could not have asked for a better group of individuals. They were extended family to us. And you're correct, the chaplain, she reached out to me for over a year and corresponding and checking on the family and making sure that we were okay. So I highly recommend to any family that's going through having to deal with that at this present time. Craven County Hospice is a wonderful organization. I've got one of these little envelopes
Yes.
that were provided at our tables last week for Craven County Hospice. Anyone that, and I'll just put a extra plug
Thank you.
in for you here, anyone that would like to donate to the Craven County Health Department Foundation, as you said, it's a 501c3, and Craven County Hospice Fund, they can send it to P.O. Box Drawer 12610, and that's Newbern 28561. And I know they could probably go to your Facebook page for the health department. You probably got some of this information there also. So one more question for you, and then I've got a question for Scott, if you don't mind. How many serve on your board? Do you?
We have 12 members on our board, 12 directors. 4 of those come from the Craven County Health Department within itself, and then we have 8 other members, including myself from the community. A lot of us are retired professionals. Some of them are still current businessmen, and women. We meet quarterly. And for example, we have a board meeting tomorrow, and then we will discuss whatever needs there are at the time, and we help however which way we can. And if I may add one more plug, every one of our foundation members Wednesday had a table.
Great. Well, I know I can speak on behalf of this board. Please relay to your board our appreciation for your service and for what you do.
Thank you
We
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Scott, if I could, I got an extra question or two for you, if you don't mind. So through the years, and I think you hit on it just a minute ago as you were had your opening comments, I remember for some years ago, this foundation is sort of an umbrella, if I'm correct, for other donations that may come to the health department. And correct me if I'm wrong, but just like if someone I've heard in the past wanted to give to the animal shelter, is an example, I think. So explain to us how other donations are given and how they're handled.
Exactly, yes, sir. This foundation really has given us another avenue, because some grant opportunities require 501c3 rather than a local government status. So this gives us a vehicle to apply for those types of funds. And also, as you mentioned, if somebody wanted to donate to the animal shelter, then this is where the money would go. Last calendar year, the foundation was gracious enough to spend over $31,000 towards the animal shelter, and year to date this calendar year it's over $17,000. So a lot of that money goes towards veterinary care, supplies for the animal shelter, equipment for the animal shelter, and we've also had worked with other departments within the county. We've had Parks and Recreation run money through the foundation. We've had a DSS grant run money through the foundation. We had North Carolina Farm Bureau a few years back donate some money towards access to care, primary care. That went to the Public Health Foundation. So it provides us a wide array to do some of the things that undergird and support the health department.
You're accounting for this, I reckon, is Miss Nicole.
Yes,
She
sir.
serves on this board too, and as finance director for the health department, I suppose she helps with that.
Yes, sir.
Accounting for that.
Ms. Nicole Sutton's our business officer with the health department, and she's the CFO for the FQHC, and she's also handling the finances, and it's the same process that we would do with the health department funds, and we come with a budget request annually, and yes, sir.
So I think what we can take away from this is great things are happening as a result of this foundation, not only for hospice, respite care, but also for our animal shelter and other benefits to the health department. So
Yeah, and I feel a little remiss in not bringing them, here earlier, so I'm glad you gave us this opportunity this morning.
yes, well, thank you. Commissioners, y'all have any other comments, questions? Commissioner Mitchell, I know, do you have anything?
With it, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to repeat your comments. We use Craven County Hospice for when my father passed away as well. They were wonderful, and we donate regularly, my husband and I, to the animal shelter arm of the foundation. It's a great organization, and it's nice to see it put up there, and it's nice for the citizens of the county to know about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's all.
All right, County Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think it's unique that Scott and Sharon are here with us today, but I do want to remind the board, this will not show up in your budget book. So this is funding that's outside of county government that has their own, accounting process and everything. So don't expect to see this money later today, just to make sure folks understand that.
Okay. All right, thank you again for being here and taking your time. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Commissioners, the first item we have as regular business is the consent agenda. You have there before you the May 1st, 2023 regular session minutes. You also have the tax releases and refunds. Are there any consent agenda items that you desire to pull? Here none. Do I have a motion that we approve?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Here none. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll. And Mr. Attorney, I may have made a mistake already. I think all votes today, since we have remote, should be by roll call. Do we need to go back and address the approving of the agenda?
I think we'll be okay with that vote. I did not hear any nays, but yes, sir, if we could roll call it going forward, that would be great.
I apologize for that. All right, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt,
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker,
Yes.
Chairman Jones.
Yes, thank you. Next item we have this morning, we're honored to have with us the Community Mitigation Assistance Team, Mr. Jonathan Bruno, and we also have Ms. Hannah Welch, and I know there may be others that are here also. So I'm going to ask you if you won't mind coming, introduce those that are with you. We appreciate you being here today for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Morning.
Commissioners, for the time. My name is Jonathan Bruno. I'm the lead for the U.S. Forest Service Community Mitigation Assistance Team. Here with me this morning as District Fire Management Officer with the Croatan National Forest, David Nelson, as well as Wildfire Mitigation Specialist Hannah Thompson with the North Carolina State Forest Service. The Community Mitigation Assistance Team is a national interagency resource designed to help communities build sustainable capacity for community and ecosystem resilience after a fire. The team has been invited by the Croatan National Forest and North Carolina State Forest Service to help develop a partnership focused on wildfire mitigation. The reason being, there will be another fire. The Croatan is an ecosystem that sees fire every 14 years, roughly. To be more exact, 14 and a half, as District Ranger Ron Hudson noted to us. While we've been here, we've been greeted graciously, and so really appreciate your community support for us. We were hosted, thank you, Amber. We were hosted at the Convention Center for a strategic planning session with folks and have seen great participation. Since we've been here, we've met with the emergency manager, several fire departments, including the city of New Bern. We've also met with planning staff, and our focus is to really help to learn lessons from this fire and to be prepared for the next one. So today, we're going to dive into just that. I'm going to hand it over to David. He's going to talk a little bit about what they learned from Great Lakes, and then Hannah Thompson will provide some additional information. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Next slide. Hello, I'm David Nelson. I've been working for the Croatan for 22 years. I'm the District Fire Management Officer. Graduated Havelock High School right before then, and have been with the Croatan ever since. So on the screen, we've got the Croatan and the Great Lakes Fire specifically. And without a pointer, I'll just try to describe it. The Croatan is in Craven, Carteret, and Jones County, 160,000 acres. Well, roughly half of the Croatan is upland swamp, Pocosin, Native American word for swamp on a hill. So it's about, the lakes are the highest point on the Croatan, about 50 feet, coming down to where the pineland, the manageable areas, and the communities
Green button.
are surrounding it. So the middle 80,000 acres, we have 4 designated wildernesses, federally designated wilderness, and large roadless areas. And like I said, it's about 80,000 acres. So it has 12 feet of brush that grows on it. We call it Pocosin fuels. So it's a high concentration of very volatile fuels that are seasonally available, starting in the spring and summer. And then surrounding it, we have a kind of a patchwork of ownership that are around all of our communities and within the Croatan
Could
fire
you
shield.
repeat it on that one for us?
Yes. Like I said, 80,000 acres of Pocosin fuels. So it's wax myrtle, gallberry, bay, and it burns very intensely. So when it burns, you can have flame lengths of over 100 feet. So 120-foot flame lengths coming towards you. When the Great Lakes fire happened, as an example, it moved over 11 miles towards the communities of Croatan, Riverdale, all the areas in between Cherry Point, Havelock, and James City. So it ran from the southwest, where Craven, Carteret, and Jones all meet, in one day and one night, 11 miles towards these communities. So, and then the following day we had a wind shift, and these are all wind-driven fires. So then it came out of the south and were burning towards all the areas south of the Trent River. New Bern, Bryce's Creek, Perrytown, Island Creek, some into Jones County, Blue Water Rise to burn in Carolina Colors. So there's a high fire potential in the middle of the Croatan, and we have surrounding the upland swamp are longleaf pine, some forests where we can go in with timber sales, thinning. We have endangered species, red cockaded woodpecker, and the main focus that we have is hazardous fuel funding that we get allocated every year for prescribed burning. So earlier in the year, with our hazardous fuel money, hazardous fuel reduction money, we burn in between the high hazard Pocosin swamps and the communities. So between last year and this year, we had burned roughly 8,000 acres. And the Great Lakes fire hit our burn from last year and the burn we did this March and stopped the forward progression towards the Highway 70 corridor. When the wind switched from the south, like I said, it burned up towards the Bryce's Creek area. We don't have manageable land adjacent to the Pocosins to the north. So we don't have areas where we can burn with longleaf pine to the north. So it did burn onto private property, and we utilized the Weyerhaeuser system of roads to burn out in front of the flaming front. So, and that's what stopped its progression towards Bryce's Creek. It did spot over 1.25 miles away from the main head, coming towards the communities, and we were able to get that spot at 4 or 5 acres. And that's why you'll see this area right here, we burned out prior to that flaming front coming towards the communities. So fire return interval is something we talk about. This is 32,000 acres. The remaining 50,000 acres are still available to burn. Well, in this area specifically, south of Catfish Lake Road, it burned in 1994 for the Fish Day fire, it burned in 2012 for the Dad fire, and now in 2023 for the Great Lakes fire. So we know the fire return interval between 12 and 15 years, but this one specifically is 14 and a half. So we know in 2037, this could happen again. And what can we do as forest, as land manager, and now, but the fire doesn't stop at agency boundaries. So what can we do in our communities to make our homes and communities more safe? So we have that discussion internally with our prescribed burning, and we know it works. So we can restore the longleaf ecosystem, and longleaf is a pine where we safely, with low intensity fire, do underburns. So the forest is still intact, and it's a healthy forest ecosystem. Where the 100-foot flames hit that, it dropped down to less than 5-foot flames, and then we were able to catch that. So that's how it stopped that progression towards Highway 70. All right, I'll pass it on to Hannah. Thank you.
I have a question before you leave.
Yes.
You named 3 different fires, and how are they different? Because they were burning the same land, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, why are the names different? Just like hurricanes? But you just give it a name when it comes in?
That's right. Yep. Yep. The incident commander, the initial attack incident commander. So
Okay.
who's in charge of the initial response will name the fire.
Okay.
And so
Gotcha.
that's why those are just different names. Every fire we have has a name.
Has a different name? Okay, thank you.
We can go on to the next slide.
Yeah, well, next slide. So this is what everybody saw. This picture on the left is taken from the Blue Water Rise subdivision. And what we have is developments that are encroaching closer and closer to the Pocosin areas. In some of those areas, we have a buffer of manageable timberland in between that's Forest Service ownership. Some we don't. And that's where it escaped onto private land, is where we don't have a buffer in between the swamp and the communities. And that's where it burned onto Weyerhaeuser Corporation land. And then from Cherry Point, and the smoke column that came up for those, especially those first 2 days where it ran almost 20 miles. And we had large air tankers, tractors, and eventually we had 25 tractors installing 25 miles of line between the forest and the communities. But for those 2 days when it's running through those types of fuels, it's very difficult to contain, and you need a large buffer of managed timber, healthy forest in between. So, all right. Thank you.
I have a quick question. As we're doing planning, developing, pushing these communities into the borderline of a lot of these national forest areas, would it benefit us to, do we already check with the national forest when people apply for like a Blue Water Rise type community right there in the middle of a national forest, or we don't consult at all?
That neighborhood there, Blue Water Rise, is actually in the city of New Bern jurisdiction.
Okay.
That's inside the city limits.
Yeah. So there are things that we can do to make communities, and we call it resilient to wildfire, and that those communities on the border, wildland-urban interface. So we call it WUI. And there are areas that we can do on the forest to protect the public, and that's why we do our understory burning, prescribed burning. And then communities, there are a lot of ways to make communities and homes hardened to wildfire. So, and Hannah can talk on that.
Water Rise is in the city. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today and us together as a group. My name is Hannah. I am a wildfire mitigation specialist with the North Carolina Forest Service. I live in Kinston, right along the Jones County line, so I recreate down here. We come to the water down here. We eat and shop down here, so this area is a place that I use frequently. Next slide, please. I think we need to go back one slide, sorry. Our slides are out of order. Yeah, we're missing one. It's okay. Next slide, please. We'll go forward. I apologize. So to start, the collaboration and partnership between the North Carolina Forest Service and U.S. Forest Service has always existed, as well as relationships with fire departments and others in your area. But as a result of this fire and the things that David spoke to, we believe that a partnership is necessary, a greater partnership, to focus on wildfire mitigation here to keep communities safe. First, we would like your support as we look to create the Croatan Fireshed Partnership. We will also need your support as we update critically important plans, such as the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or plans, and then the Emergency Operations Plan. Your leadership is necessary as we work to empower residents to prepare for all hazards. And we believe that a community that's ready for wildfire is also going to be ready for the next hurricane and the next storm. We hope that you can support other prescribed fire efforts, which some of those also occur on private lands, that, as David noted, help us with the latest fire that we have here. And finally, we urge you to support your planning department as they learn about building and smart growth concepts that will help to protect citizens and responders in the county. Next slide. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We're a little bit out of order. This image here represents the 3 legs of the National Wildland Fire Management Strategy. We're showing you this image to emphasize the importance that managing wildfire and the risk to public safety must include all 3 of these elements. Fire-adapted communities, that humans are prepared before the next fire occurs. Safe and effective response, that responders together implement safe, risk-based fire management decisions. And resilient landscapes, that lands, regardless of ownership, can withstand disturbance and recover quickly. And even in the Croatan, the fire that's going on now, the Great Lakes Fire, we are going to be going on a tour later today. I'll put up a slide for that in just a moment, but we do already have green growth that's occurring in the fire area. So just to let you know, it can be this quickly. Next slide, please. So today at 1 p.m., we'll be meeting at the Incident Command Post, and we'll be going on a tour of the Great Lakes Fire and surrounding areas to point out some of the things that we've observed. You can join us and land managers on that tour of the fire and fuels treatments if you wish, or send some designees. We will also be hosting some mitigation training beginning today, leading to the 18th. And we'll be interacting or continuing to interact with key partners in the area. And then we'll be having a closeout event on May 17th at 10 a.m. And that's going to be held at the Craven Community College. So if you would like to attend to it with us, we would appreciate that, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Questions? I just think on behalf of our commissioners and also our citizens of Craven County, we thank you for the tireless efforts that y'all have put forth. Scary time, I know, for a lot of individuals. Commissioner Howard, Commissioner Booker, they interacted a lot with their citizens that live in that area. But y'all did a phenomenal job at the end of the day. And so we thank you. And there's a lot of folks, our local fire departments, our emergency management, others that were participants in that too. We got a great group of folks, as you found out here in Craven County, a great team, and so thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Commissioners, we go to item 3, which will be our Trillium presentation. We're honored this morning to have Mr. Dave Peterson with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Dave Peterson, Senior Regional Director at Trillium. And looking back, this is my 9th year in front of you all. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm hoping to make it 10, you know. But that being said, I first want to thank Commissioner Hunt, who has joined our board. And I'll give one little plug on what impact she's had. And I'll talk a little bit about this. We had opioid settlement funds come to the LME MCOs, and the first round, there were no applicants from Craven County. Okay? She heard about this, and I think there was 4 grants given to Craven County on our second go-round. So those applications were approved, and so adding some additional funds to Craven. I also want to thank Ruthie Sheets, who's an attorney here in town, and she's also on our regional advisory board. So my annual update. So basically our mission, transforming lives and building community well-being through partnership and proven solutions. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are, and then the big issue of Medicaid transformation and those changes, and then some, which then impact our organizational changes. And at the end, as usual, I give Craven County specific data on number of people served. So Trillium, we cover 28 counties. We recently added, and this is by choice of the counties, added Halifax and Bladen counties. And so our numbers continue to change in how many people we serve, which increased our population, total population in the 28 of 1.5 million. I always do kind of a comparison of that, because that 1.5 million in 28 counties, we have other managed care organizations in the state, and one of them is Alliance, and they cover, several counties. But if you just take Wake County,
and Cumberland County, those two counties are more than our 28 counties' total population. So we have to do things differently in our eastern part of North Carolina than what some of the other managed care organizations do. Those of you that have been with this and presented, when I started presenting on the changes that have been occurring at the state level, I said last year our numbers are going to go down, and they have, because last year we served about 46,000 people. Those 70% with mental health diagnosis, 20% with substance use diagnosis, and then 10% with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have contracted with about 550 behavioral health and intellectual and developmental disabilities providers. Last year's expenditures were almost $521 million on services. And we do serve the smallest county in the state, Terrell County, and also the 8th largest county in the state, which is New Hanover. And we cover over 13,000 square miles. I've always put this map up here for this time for a couple of different reasons. Halifax joined us, and then Bladen joined us. And so our populations in those regions have changed, but I always point out, if you look at the northern region, it has 11 counties, and they have about 250,000 people in those 11 counties. Well, you go to the central region, which is Nash all the way over to Dare County, including Craven, it's double the population with 2 less counties. Okay? And then our southern region has 8 counties. They just added Bladen, and they have almost 3 times the number of people, mostly because of Jacksonville and Wilmington. But how we have to make sure that we're addressing each of those counties, not even the regions, has to be different. So we deal with Terrell County much differently than we deal with New Hanover County, and Craven County differently than the other ones too, because of your unique needs in Craven. So 2018, I started talking with you all about the standard plans coming into town. The General Assembly has said we are going to put out an RFP that was approved, and then in 2021, these 5 private insurance companies went live managing the mild to moderate Medicaid behavioral health folks who we have been serving for decades. Okay? So that population moved over to these 5 insurance companies. Thus the reason why our numbers went down. Okay? So the state has also required us to partner with one of those managed care or one of those standard plans, and we've partnered with Carolina Complete Health, who is a physician-run organization statewide. And so taking a look at those 5, AmeriHealth, Blue Cross, United, WellCare, and Carolina Complete Health, those are the ones that are now managing the Medicaid mild to moderate individuals for behavioral health. So the tailored plan, those were the standard plans I just talked about. We're called a tailored plan. There's 6 of us, LME, MCOs, local management entities, managed care organization, and we'll be going to be operating like we've been doing for many, many years, the severe mental health, substance use, and developmental disability individuals. The original date that was supposed to go live was July 1, 2022. And then they postponed it to December 1, 2022. And then they postponed it again to April 1, 2022. And now they postponed it again to October 1, 2023. Okay? We have passed all of our requirements, all of our metrics to go live on April 1. But obviously that's passed, and the state is basically saying, if all 6 of you are not ready, then none of you can go live. Wow. Okay? We we're ready. And so with that, we're now postponed to October 1. The big, we did do a soft launch in care management on December 1, 2022, so we have been operating that. Here is our, not sure.
Oh, you're finding your page, but I asked a question.
Yes.
Are you saying that the most severe people with mental health problems are not getting, they're not under the program, they're not getting?
No, we have continued to serve those folks. They will, the big difference, and I'm gonna get to that, is we've always been serving those folks for their mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use, but the big difference that's gonna start in October 1 is we're now gonna be managing their physical health. Their COPD, their heart issues, any arthritis, any diabetes, anything like that, which we have not done before.
Yes.
So they don't have two insurance companies, they're just gonna have one.
Gotcha.
So that's our map. As you can see, Trillium covers the light green, and we have a large number of counties along with our land mass that we have to cover. But, you know, there's one other managed care organization, which is VIA. They have some of the light blue, and those, you know, they have a couple more counties than us, but it's nice to have all of ours, like the entire East Coast, right? So, December 1, 2022, we started our care management, like I said. Here's the big difference, though. Like I said, we have to now cover the physical health piece. We have care managers that are experts in mental health, okay? But are they experts in physical health? They have to learn that, or we have to hire people that do know that, okay? So the other requirement that the state has put on is that we now have to contract with every single pharmacy. Your pharmacy, everybody's pharmacy in this room, Trillium now has to have a contract with, okay? Because of the medication management that occurs for people with disabilities. So that's over 2,000 pharmacies. The other thing that we are required to do with this tailored plan is to contract with every primary care office that does Medicaid. And in Eastern North Carolina, most of the primary care offices, your doctors, they do private insurance and they do Medicaid, so we have to have a contract with them. So if you think about the numbers of people that went down, but our contracts department went way up, and you know our pharmacy benefits oversight has to go way up. So in the sense of FTEs, we have not been able to cut back, okay? So how is that impacting us? So our system of care staff, who used to be under me, we have moved those folks over to care management because care management is one of the biggest lifts. That's one of our largest departments. I've hired some community liaison coordinators that continue to stay in the counties doing all the other meetings in the counties. Care management includes population health. It's not just those 3 disability groups. It now has to manage the whole person. Like I said, we have contracted with Carolina Complete Health, and we're really working hard on trying to get, and as you may have seen in the news, there are some agencies that have not contracted yet with all the MCOs, and so we're really working hard on trying to get the hospitals and health departments signed on. There has not been a problem with health departments, so we appreciate the health department here in Craven County signing up with us. There's a lot of more Q&A on our website. Some additional changes. One of the requirements to tailor plan, we used to have a phone number for members to call us and then a 9-to-5 number. The phone number for members to call us was 24/7. Well, with this tailored plan, we now have to have a separate pharmacy line just for pharmacies to call us. We now have to have a provider line, and in my view, a provider used to be those that did mental health services. Well, now providers are those that also do primary health. So the doctor's offices, we have to have a provider line just for them. We have to have a separate nurses line. We have to have a member and recipient line like we have been, and a behavioral health crisis line, which we have been. So if you think about that infrastructure change on what our call center needs to look like, we've had to add 3 new lines. Care management, like I said, is dealing with the whole person, but with that being said, we've added some specialty areas. We've added a emergency department disposition team. Way too many people use the emergency department as their primary care service. We've got to get folks out of the emergency department. So we have an ED disposition team that checks every single hospital every day and makes calls to them and or looks up online whether we have any members in the ED to try to get them out. We also have a Department of Juvenile Justice care management team because we want to do some prevention of folks earlier on so that they aren't in the system forever. We have also a rapid access care coordination team, which then deals with folks that are at the highest level needing services, intense services right away. So quickly, just some project updates. Like I said, the opioid settlement projects, Craven County went after some money, and I'll need to ask Jack after if you all have gotten yours yet, but you guys got a good chunk. I don't know if the check's been written yet, so I'll try to find that out. We also are right in the middle of purchasing Narcan naloxone kits, and Craven County will be getting some of those. I've been doing that for about 8 or 9 years now, so Jack decides where they go in Craven County. We do have some mobile clinics that are opening up in our more rural counties, and those are for folks that can't get to appointments. And so we've been doing that. We have started a tribal engagement process, and I'm the lead of that. So we're visiting the different tribes and their leaders to see how we can better support the different tribes. We have been doing co-responder pilots, which is a provider that we contract with can sit in 3 different offices. It can sit in the police office, it can sit with the sheriff, and it can sit with the Department of Social Services. And so this has been successful, and I did get a call just last week from your Vanceboro PD looking to see if they want to do a co-responder model. And so it's open to everybody, every county to try to do that. And basically, they go out on calls with law enforcement or with DSS, and then depending on the scenario, law enforcement can leave, and then that provider can then de-escalate the issue and then get that person linked to services. We have also added to our Consumer Family Advisory Committee. I talked about the 3 disability groups. Well, the state is adding traumatic brain injury, TBI, to our 3 disability groups, so that's now in statute. The funding has not come yet, but we're hearing that that's going to be statewide. Right now, it's only in Wake County. Last Thursday, we did our official ribbon cutting for the Healing Place in New Hanover County. I know that Jack's very familiar with that, and it's a 200-bed facility. The day we were there, it opened up the 1st of March. Last Thursday when we were there was 125 people already in the facility. Okay, 200-bed facility starting to fill up quickly. And I know that Craven County will be utilizing that. It's a recovery peer-run organization. There's a similar one in Raleigh that's been around since 1991. So it's an excellent, excellent program.
Dave, not to stop and belabor the point, but is there still a plan for one in Pitt County? Is that still on the table? No, sir.
No.
Okay.
No. The New Hanover County, when our budget got cut, New Hanover County put the money in for the building itself. Yep. Thank you. So, all right. So, and lastly, so in Craven County, the number of individuals that we served last year were 3,301. 2,442 had a primary diagnosis of mental health. 836 had a substance use diagnosis, and 481 had an intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I always say those numbers do not add up to 3,301 because several folks are duly diagnosed. So, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Hunt, we'll go to you first. Any comments since you're serving on the Trillium Board?
I would just like to make everyone aware that the new home, the new facility in Hanover County serves both men and women.
Yes. 100 beds for men, 100 beds for women. It's a first that the Healing Place has ever done. They have 20 sites across the East Coast, but that's the first that they've done a men and women.
On that point, is the need for men and women equal?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
So looking at your numbers right now, 100 for men, 100 for women, what's the fill rate? Like, because you were saying you already had
125 in there?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
of
it's-
that percentage, what is
it's-
75,
Yep, it's
65?
split. Yep.
Something, yeah. Okay.
Is it first come, first serve, or is county's got so many beds, or how are they?
Yeah, it can be both of that. There's a 12-bed detox piece to it, but then it's an 18-month program. So one of the things about this program is, which is different than any other provider that we ever worked with, some providers you go in and if you do okay or you don't do okay and you leave and you want to come back, sometimes they'll let you come back. This program, people, if they make it a week and then they leave and say I'm done, but it's an 18-month program, they can come back. And then they can come back again if they stay a month. And then if they stay 2 months, the next time. And so it's one of those open door where law enforcement brings folks right to the front there, social services, families, and people walk in.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just take a minute on that. Later today or tomorrow, you'll hear from Amber and I about the first budget for our opioid settlement funds. And one of the items that's in there is a placeholder for funding for the Healing Place in New Hanover County, working with their county manager, Mr. Coudray, and determining what access we can have and what funding we need for that. But Amber and I felt it's vital. Long-term recovery has been the biggest need that we've gone without for so long. And this opportunity now for men and women, and I will tell you there's a lot more facilities for men than there are women right now. So this is a huge advantage for this program. So we will talk to you about funding about that later today.
You know, Dave, you already know this, but for those that may be listening, most of our commissioners serve on a nonprofit or some type of substance abuse board. I think this Board of Commissioners has championed trying to do everything we could towards the opioid crisis. This past weekend, I was at an event and I had a lady come to me and just share her heart about her child. It's everywhere. It's no discrimination against age. Educated, uneducated, it affects everyone. And it's, as we go around, the more and more that we do, and I'm telling the choir, I mean, you see it every day, 24 hours a day, but we're seeing it more and more of how many folks it is affecting. And so it's great to hear. A long-term facility is what we've needed for so long, especially in the eastern part of this state. And so our commitment will be to try, I feel like, I can't speak, we hadn't discussed it yet, but I think our commitment is to do everything we can to support every effort, especially these long-term. So, other questions, comments?
I have a question. You spoke to getting people out of the emergency room. And now, does that mean that you are connecting with private doctors, private services? How are you? What is the plan there?
Yeah.
To me, it seems a mammoth job to.
That's a very good question, Commissioner. So we have our ED disposition team has a psychiatrist and then licensed clinicians working on, okay, what is the diagnosis of that individual? What are the services and supports they need? And then how.
They determine that when they go to the emergency room, or when they,
Well,
when they pick that up.
We only get them when they're in there.
Okay.
And so we check all 20 hospitals every day if any of our members are in there. And then they say, okay, here's the hospital, here's the individual, what's the diagnosis, what's the history, and then what services can we get them into the community?
So they have to have a mental diagnosis prior to you picking them up.
If they're in the emergency department and they are one of our members, and so yes to they would primarily have either a mental health, developmental disabilities, or substance use diagnosis going in.
My reason for my question is sometimes, from my experience, it's very difficult to get a person with a mental problem to accept that they have and accept that service.
Yes.
We struggle with that.
Yes, and law enforcement knows this better than anybody when they have to do, some revival of folks with, some Narcan. I don't know what the percentages are, but some folks say, yes, I want to go into treatment right then and there, and some say, no, thank you, thanks for bringing me back to life, I'm going back home.
Commissioner Mitchell, do you have anything?
No, I do not. Thank you. This is a very helpful brief, and I'm excited about the healing place.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Hearing nothing else from commissioners, Dave, thank you again. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. And thank you, Commissioner Hunt, for your service and for helping out with what he talked about. That's great. All right, departmental matters. The first item we have is social services. Ms. Tanya Jordan Davis, welcome this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have the Tanya and Tanya team this
Okay.
morning.
Glad to have
Excuse me, ma'am. Could you take your mask off so we can hear you more clearly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Tanya Davis. I am the program manager for Adult and Senior Services. Been with the agency quite a while. But we stand before you today to present two items of consideration under our home and community care block grant funds. One where we have moved money from one program to another, and then we wanted to present our upcoming new fiscal year budget. And I've asked Tanya Cedars to assist me this morning with going over your paperwork that you should have already received. Before I take a step back, I do want to thank Commissioner Smith for her service, being one of our newly added members to our Aging Planning Board. We thank you so much for your participation, and we thank you, commissioners, for your support over the years in this much-needed program for our seniors. At this time, I'll turn it over to Tanya to go in specifics of this.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. The first item is the budget amendment for this current fiscal year. The funding is all within the Department of Social Services. So we've had a great increase in the number of participants that go to lunch at our senior center. And we've had we have had not as many participants through our home delivered meal program. So in order to cover the need that is there in the senior center program, we have taken some of the home delivered meal dollars to pay for that extra money. Additionally, at the beginning of the fiscal year, when we were planning for this year and what we wanted to do with this money, we had allocated $2,000 rather to the Veterans Department so that they could open up or start an information and options counseling program. In order to begin that program, there is quite a bit of training that's necessary. There has to be a certified options counselor available, and the funding that is given can be used towards that goal. So we were in hopes that that was something that we could do. For this fiscal year, the VA department was unable to use the $2,000, mainly because a lot of the training that they had to go through, honestly, is at no cost. A lot of it now is done virtually, so there's not even any travel money that would be required to go to wherever that training may be. So the department made goals towards becoming an options counselor, a certified options counselor, but the funding was not used. So we took that $2,000 and we put it to the care management budget at the Department of Social Services. Care management is we always overspend that funding because we've got the county funding to back that up. So we know that we can use that $2,000 is already used. So the amount of money that we are shifting between the four programs that you see here is a total of $310,834, and that does include the match that the county adds to the program. Are there any questions?
Questions? Commissioner Hunt, do you have something to go first?
So the decrease in home meal deliveries, is that for lack of volunteers, or is there another reason? Why is that?
There certainly is always the need for volunteers. In some of the more remote areas of the county, we're doing what we call frozen meals, where we're delivering a week of frozen meals at a time to each person that's on the route. So some of that is lack of volunteers, and some of it is the need. The wait list right now, thank goodness, is manageable. So it's something that we have, but we're not utilizing it at the level that we thought. And the other item that always impacts home delivered meals are transitions, death, nursing home placement, a number of that. So it's always, the home delivered meal program is always a moving, shifting. Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to add, Commissioner Hunt, that it was an increase in our participants for the need to move it. We have more folks that need to be served, so we have the money that we can use for that. That was a good way to move it over to serve those folks that are on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay. The next item is the funding plan for the home and community care block grant for next fiscal year, for fiscal year 23-24. We do not have the exact official allocation for the home and community care block grant for next fiscal year. The Eastern Carolina Council Area Agency on Aging has not received the allocation from the Division of Aging, and so, of course, they can't give us what our allocation is going to be. So we started the planning process using the dollar amount that we have this current fiscal year. And so everything really has stayed the same in terms of funding. The one major piece that is different with this year's funding, or I'm sorry, next year's funding, is we have added transportation back into the home and community care block grant. This fiscal year, CARTS, who provides that transportation for us, had other funding, I think from ARPA money.
CARES Act.
CARES Act, I'm sorry, thank you. And so they were able to use that CARES Act money to provide transportation to our seniors from home to the senior center and back and forth. That money will no longer be available next fiscal year. So we had to take in consideration to allocate funding for transportation out of the Home and Community Care Block Grant this fiscal year. In consulting with CARTS, we have estimated that we would need about $45,000 to provide transportation for the senior center this year, or for next year. Given that, given the same amount of, that the pot has not changed that we know of yet, the other programs we just started adjusting. This year, there's a program that both Havelock Senior Center and our center here in New Bern have senior center operations money, and they've used that money for improvements. I think the senior center on George Street has been doing some innovations to protect, some fencing, some cameras, security kinds of things. Because we've had to take a cut to put transportation back in the budget, both of those senior centers released that funding for next fiscal year. So there will not be any revision, or there won't be any of the senior center operation money to do things like projects, building projects, renovations, or updated maintenance, that kind of thing. The majority of the other budgets have stayed the same. We've had to adjust some. The senior center, the caterer contract went up significantly this year. So in order to serve the same number of folks next year as this year, both the home delivered and the congregate nutrition programs have had to have an increase just so that we can cover who we're serving at this particular time. In total, what we're expecting, or what we're at least hoping for, for next fiscal year, including the match, is $613,698,000, and they will be used. The agencies that are in the plan: Craven County Department of Social Services, of course, Carolina or Coastal Community Action, and the city of Havelock for the senior center. We did not include veterans in this budget, again, because of the inclusion of transportation and the increase in the meals. And one other point I would like to bring: in years past, CARTS has been an agency that we have served. So CARTS has had their own allocation. This year, it's going to be much easier for DSS to contract with CARTS for the same exact program. So nothing changes for the seniors. They won't see a difference. It just makes a lot of sense for both of our agencies, because we do so much of the administrative stuff is so much of the same. Everybody has to do an assessment. Everybody has to count the unit. Everybody has to submit the unit for reimbursement. And so instead of two departments doing the same thing, it just makes sense for us to figure out a way to do that together. So DSS will be entering into a contract with CARTS to provide transportation.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right, thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
We just want to maximize these services and the funds, Commissioner Jones, and keep it in our county, because we know if we don't use them, then they go to other counties.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, may I add a couple things? So thank you so much for doing that, the team Tanya over there. But I will tell you, as they've stated all this, it is subject to change, and more than likely it always does, and it'll be after we've completed our budget process. You guys, through the area agency, will learn there's $50,000 more or there's $40,000 less. We'll have to balance it out, and it'll go on like that throughout the fiscal year. I think they've done a great job of showing you where you are and what to project for next year. Of course, you'll cover this through the budget process as well when we get to this pass-through line. But today they're asking you to vote on the revisions and to approve the recommended budget for next year. I would ask you to do that knowing that more than likely we're going to come back and have future discussions, not only today, but next month, 3 months from now.
Okay, you answered my question.
Yep.
Almost.
Okay.
So I like to know the numbers. She stated right many numbers, thank you. But the first item that you've asked is approval for the revisions. What is that number that that you're looking at?
And that's the budget amendment in your attachments, Tanya. And it looks like it's almost a little bit blue in color here on my screen, but it's the,
310,000?
Yes, sir.
yep, 310.
310, 834?
Yes,
Yep.
sir. That's correct.
Okay, 310, 834. And then the second item is a vote to approve the recommended budget. And I wrote down, you said $613,698.
Yes, sir.
So those are the two numbers that this board needs to consider, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if I could just be sure to, that does include the local match. So that is, that's the total dollars.
Okay. Having said that, that's what we need in the motion though, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, you have two item actions here, a vote to approve the revisions to the fiscal year 22-23 for 310,834, and then to approve the recommended budget for 23-24 for 613,698. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Howard, a second from Commissioner Smith. Discussion on the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes. Team Tanya, thank you. Appreciate y'all being here. We got Mr. Merritt here also. You got anything to add this morning?
No, it's just that, as you said, I think that, we're just trying to make sure that we spend all those funds and make sure, that's why we move the monies around, because again, if we don't use those, what'll happen is that it reverts back either to other counties in our region or other regions in the state. And as you can hear, like with Shirley, we don't want to start losing those dollars because it's very hard to get them back. So that's why we come back and do budget revisions. And as Commissioner Hunt said, sometimes in home delivered meals, having to get those people back on and fill those people in for those slots that have gone out cannot happen. It doesn't happen as fast as we'd like at times to keep those numbers up, but we try to do it as fast as we can. But we also want to make sure that we build up other services to make sure we spend all those monies and make sure so they're not unspent.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Item 5, planning. We have the King Creek at Cherry Branch Phase 4. Mr. Chad Strong. Good morning, sir.
Had one subdivision for approval this month. The planning board met on May the 4th and recommended the following subdivision for approval. King Creek at Cherry Branch Phase 4. The property is owned by Coastal Piedmont Developers, surveyed and engineered by Thomas Engineering. Property is located within Township 5 off of King Creek Drive. Subdivision contains 25 lots on 14.44 acres. The lots will be served by Craven County Water and individual septic systems. There will be a new road in this section of the division going by the name of Noble Court. And I got some maps here to show you general location. That's the Neuse River to the north. This is in Cherry Branch off of Ferry Road 306. Next slide, please. Here's some pictures we took last week, just showing the construction that has taken place. Roads are in, the drainage are in. They just got through hydroseeding the ditches when we were on site. The power company was in there, and maybe even some cable or internet were in there plowing in those utilities. So next slide, please. Just more pictures of the condition of the subdivision as of last week. And something new that, well, I won't say new, in the last 3 or 4 years within subdivisions with mailboxes in close proximity, they're requiring what you call a gang box arrangement. That's coming from the Postal Service. And so the developer has to put in an extra apron there in order to get off-road access so that folks can get their mail out of their individual boxes. And it's usually within 200 to 300 feet of most of the housing within that subdivision. So, any questions or comments? If there's not any questions or comments, there'll just need to be a vote in order to approve this subdivision to move forward.
Commissioner Smith.
My question is, does this road qualify for state approval to turn it over to the state if they choose to do so?
Yes, ma'am. What we did in this situation is there was extensive test taken by the engineer, and Mr. Thomas is in the audience here today. We got those reports on the testing of the road. The design met the NCDOT requirements. What we have to wait, and it's the age-old thing that it would really be best if DOT could go ahead and take them over right now, but they have to wait to a minimum housing number of houses on those streets. Then we have to support a resolution. The board supports a resolution that's sent on to NCDOT. All that information that the engineer, the county, and the resolution that is put in a packet, it's sent to the North Carolina Board of Transportation. At that point in time, they'll adopt the road for their continuous maintenance.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hunt, this is in your district. You got any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time.
Other questions from the board? The only thing I have, you have down here that it's going to be served by individual septic systems. Some of these lots are less than a half an acre. How are the septic systems on each lot, or do you have a septic system that's going to serve for the whole community?
It's going to be on individual lots.
How in the world can you put a septic system on less than a half an acre?
The environmental health regulations is you got to have at least 15,000 square feet per lot. And it takes individual site assessments, and the environmental health department goes out and evaluates. So you have to have an initial system and the repair area. So that area has to accommodate those two. It seems very tight. I agree.
Seems mighty tight. I mean, all the septic systems I'm seeing out in my end of the county, I mean, it looks like it's taking 1/10 of an acre or more, with the lines that they're making you put in. So, well, I hope it's not something that we come back years later. This is nothing, Mr. Thomas, about y'all. It just, this is something I hope to come back to bite somebody, and that's probably not the correct word I need to use, but to be a concern years from now for future boards.
Same thing I was thinking, because we have the same issue, and I thought there were minimal acreage requirements that went with that.
Yeah. All right.
Question.
Yes.
One more question. Is it meeting minimum standards or in a leeway?
Talking about the road construction?
I'm referring to the septic system now.
Well, from a developer standpoint, if they can get a system on a tract of land that meets the minimum criteria of the subdivision ordinance, which is 15,000 square feet, and they can get it to evaluate for that, they're not going to try to go much over that.
They're not going to go any further than minimum.
Because that means more lots that they will be able to have and be able to market.
Mr. Chairman, I think, and this is a reoccurring theme, particularly in this community area down there, is you probably have the minimum qualification to get a septic system in, right? But the key component here is a repair area. I mean, there's a need for that. And what happens is you've got a repair area, but 3 or 4 sales from now, no one's going to know that. No one's going to remember it. And they're going to go put a swimming pool or an outbuilding or dig a ditch or whatever they want to do in there, and that repair area is gone. So then you get in these complicated, how do we remedy a situation where someone's gone against what was in the original plan, and now they're stuck, basically. And I think there is an instance of this already in this community. Now, does this meet the standards? Absolutely. But I think to your point, it's setting up for future issues as we move forward.
All right. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none, do I have a motion that we would approve the King Creek at Cherry Branch Phase 4 final?
So moved. This is E.T.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Commissioner Mitchell.
Yes, I just made the motion.
Okay, you made the motion. Thank you. I have a second from Commissioner Hunt. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Howard,
No.
Commissioner Hunt,
Yes.
I like his concern.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker,
Yes.
Chairman Jones.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item is item 6. We have several with us this morning from the sheriff's office. I'm going to ask Major McFadden, you want to come up first, and we'll let you introduce those that are with you. We welcome all of you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for your wait this morning. Sorry it was a little time.
It's always interesting. Always get new information. That Trillium presentation was very good. Helping Hands House is going to be an asset to us.
Yes, sir.
Craven County.
Yes.
That's a great asset. I have with me Lieutenant Ski, as we call him, if you'll come up, please, and his captain, Captain Scott. We have 2 matters that we'd like to address today, and the first I'll let the lieutenant take over with that, and that's the laptops from the school board.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Lieutenant Leszewski with the Craven County Sheriff's Office. This morning, just asking to approve the laptops that were presented to us through the Craven County Board of Education. These laptops are obviously vital to the mission that we're trying to accomplish with SRO in every school, and through our communication, through our statistics and our report writing, so that we can, maintain and go forward with the safest schools that we can possibly have.
All right, questions from the board? I do have one, just for clarification. I reckon this is more for staff. Okay, this donation is coming from the Board of Education. We're going to, are they going to have it on their books? Is it on our books? On our books?
So they purchased the Panasonic Tough Books, 29 of them. They have turned those over to Craven County IT for cataloging, programming, and I believe maybe even getting ready for installation through docs. So this will actually become Craven County government property.
It will become
It's a
our
full
property.
transfer.
This is what I should have asked it in this manner. So when the life of these donations is ended,
right?
They're our property to put on gov deals or whatever to disperse of, not the Board of Education.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
My question is, I know when Carteret County, the SROs get standard issued laptops from the Board of Education, but our IT department completely maintains those laptops. So it'll be the maintenance, any issues that come up, broken laptops, software issues, viruses, all those will be maintained by Craven County staff.
Yes, sir. Just like it is now with their current laptops, because there's certain programs, CAD and things that they have to have that Mr. Bennett, of course, works with them on. But of course, they want to be on our network too. Right.
Makes sense. Okay.
Other questions? Commissioner Mitchell, you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
I got a second that we accept the donation of the laptops and the other items that would, the adapters and the docking stations. We have the motion. We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hear none. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Bucher?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes. Thank you, Lieutenant. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The second matter that we have today is the request for the adoption of a new lease for a vehicle. We have reserve deputies who are certified law enforcement officers who have to meet all the requirements to maintain their certification, including annual training. One of those is a local individual, Mr. Ebby Howard. We entered into a lease with him. When these reserves come in, of course, we have cars that are dedicated to deputies, and we are always short on spare cars. He offered almost 2 years ago to purchase a law enforcement vehicle that would be used both for his reserve service and also as is needed by the sheriff's office. That lease was entered into, a 3-year lease. He has since replaced that vehicle recently with another Chevrolet Tahoe, and we are asking that that original lease today be terminated at his request, and that the board accept a new lease for the period of 3 years under the exact same terms and conditions, which are that he's totally responsible for all of the financial responsibilities with that vehicle, up to and including fuel, tires, maintenance, and so forth. And we would ask the board to approve that lease for a period of 3 years.
Okay. Any questions from anyone?
Are we ended the old lease?
The old lease will be null and void, and then the new lease will, once approved, will come into effect. Yes, ma'am. All right, hearing no questions, do I have a motion that we would terminate the current vehicle lease and approve the new for Mr.
moved.
Howard? Okay, we have a motion, of a
Second.
second discussion on the motion. I would just say Mr. Howard and others can help contribute a lot by volunteering their time, and also with him by volunteering and giving of a vehicle to assist.
It's a great asset.
It's a great asset, and I have seen him on the road helping out our sheriff's office, and I'm very appreciative for what he does and others too. So,
Chairman, the Howards are known for their generosity, so.
I hear you, sir. All right. Hearing no further discussion on the motion, we will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Thank you very
Major.
much, ladies and
Have a
gentlemen.
good day. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you, what you do. Commissioners, before we go into hearing our next item, I'd like to ask that we would take a 10-minute recess and come back.
Okay.
Or we'll do it sooner than that, but no longer than 10, all right? Okay, Commissioner Mitchell, is she on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we all are back here in the room. You got staff, all the staff you need, Mr.
I'm ready to go.
Manager? All right, call this recess back into order. The next item, item 7, is the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget presentation. Mr. Jack Vite. Good morning, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good morning. Commissioners, it's always a privilege to be here before you. It's my favorite day of the year, to some people's chagrin. I love budget, and I'll say just this word. It is the largest piece of policy this Board of Commissioners sets every year or in your term. This is it. So as in the past, I will present to you the budget, which you should have in front of you now, and I'm going to present also the county manager's budget message here for fiscal year 2023-2024. Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Commissioners, it's my privilege to present the recommended Craven County budget for fiscal year 24. As proposed, this budget incorporates the priorities and policy direction of the Board of Commissioners while continuing to provide the highest quality of services to the citizens of Craven County in the most fiscally responsible manner. The recommended general fund budget for fiscal year 2024 is $142,269,569 without a fund balance appropriation, and recommends the ad valorem tax rate for fiscal year 2024 be set at 44.48 cents per $100 of valuation, which is revenue neutral. Okay, big statement there. That is revenue neutral with no fund balance. While there is no fund balance appropriated in this recommended budget, local governments are strongly encouraged to maintain adequate fund balances to ensure against unanticipated events that could adversely affect the county's financial position and jeopardize the continuation of county services. As such, the county continues to budget and operate in a fiscally responsible manner, which has provided a level of fund balance sufficient to accomplish this while remaining within range of our peers statewide. Craven County's available fund balance was 35.38% of expenditures as of June 30th, 2022, while other similar-sized counties with a population of 100,000 or more had fund balances averaging 43.43%, with all 100 counties averaging 43.33%. The county has made great efforts to educate the public on the process undertaken to complete the 2023 revaluation of all real property in Craven County. As anticipated, the 2023 revaluation resulted in a general increase in taxable values by $3.2 billion with a B, or 31.01% over the current fiscal year's estimated value of $10.4 billion. This equated to an estimated taxable valuation of $13.7 billion used to determine the revenue neutral rate of 44.48 cents per $100 of valuation. North Carolina General Statute 159.11 defines the revenue neutral tax rate as the rate that is estimated to produce tax revenues for the next fiscal year equal to the revenues that would have been produced for the next fiscal year by the current tax rate if no reappraisal had occurred. The new valuation and revenue neutral rate served as a foundation in building fiscal year 2024's budget. As we approach the new fiscal year, the county's financial position remains strong and continues to experience positive growth. Revenues for the first 10 months of the current fiscal year are $4 million ahead of last year, while expenditures through April are running ahead by approximately $16.8 million. The increase in revenues is due in part to several factors, but mostly a direct result of the strong growth experienced in sales tax collection. These revenues continue to exceed expectations as collections year to date are running 9.7% ahead of last year through April. We have experienced record-setting growth in sales tax over the last couple years. This trend is not expected to continue at this level, however, some growth is anticipated. Additionally, the county's experienced enhanced revenues from multiple other sources during the year, including $1.4 million more than anticipated from Medicaid sales tax hold harmless distribution and $1.5 million in interest earnings. While the economic conditions continue to trend positively, there's continued economic strain related to inflation, personnel shortages, and supply chain challenges. These economic strains continue to make our economic condition volatile in future budget projections. Expenditures for the first 10 months are higher than the same time last year, with the largest increases occurring in general government, health, and public safety. General government expenditures were up 66.2%, due mainly to the acquisition of the Sudan Temple property. Health expenditures were up 19% over last year, primarily due to opening the new 340B pharmacy, and public safety expenditures were up 12.5% to the county taking over the school safety program in most county schools, resulting in the addition of numerous school resource officers. The county ended fiscal year 2022 in a strong financial position, adding approximately $9.5 million to fund balance. Higher than projected revenues, along with the county's conservative approach to spending, limited the use of fund balance. This also provided the ability to transfer $4.4 million into the capital reserve fund, offsetting the $3.6 million used toward capital items and projects, thus increasing the fund balance within the capital reserve fund by $510,000. As we have learned from the past events, such as Hurricane Florence and the COVID-19 pandemic, funding of the Capital Reserve Fund, when excess revenues or savings are realized, continues to serve as a critical part of the county's financial position. The Capital Reserve Fund provides for future needs while helping to prevent tax increases and borrowing costs to fund much-needed capital items. There are a variety of factors that have significant impact on the proposed budget, most notably being the 2023 county valuation, which has resulted in the current assessed value for fiscal year 2024 to be estimated at $13.7 billion, an increase of $3.2 billion, or 31% over the estimate of $10.5 used for the fiscal 2023 budget. North Carolina General Statute 105-206 requires each of the 100 counties to complete a revaluation at least once every 8 years. Craven County last completed a countywide revaluation in 2016 and is scheduled to be on a 4-year cycle moving forward, with the next revaluation occurring in 2027. Higher property values combined with residential and commercial growth are primarily responsible for the increase in valuation the county has experienced. Total revenues and expenditures each amount to $142,269,569 in the recommended budget for fiscal year 2024. This represents a decrease of $8.2 million, or 5.4% compared to the current budget through the end of April 2023. Property tax revenues are budgeted at a 3.8% increase over the 2023 budget amount, while sales tax revenues are budgeted at 4% increase over last year's actual collections. Sales tax collections have outperformed virtually all projections and expectations. High inflation, coupled with rising prices due to supply chain pressure, continues to impact collections positively. Both factors have contributed to double-digit increases in sales tax collections over the previous year. Transfers into the general fund from the Capital Reserve Fund are up approximately $136,000 from the current budget. Capital expenditures and major repair projects were closely examined, and only because of the Capital Reserve Fund, many are able to be funded. Overall capital outlay costs are up $1.7 million compared to the current budget. Out of the total $5.5 million in capital expenditures budgeted for fiscal year 2024, $2.6 million is funded with transfers from the Capital Reserve Fund. Most capital expenditures funded in this budget include the maintenance and replacement of vital infrastructure in technology, facilities, and recreational improvements. Total salaries and benefits in the recommended budget are $4.9 million higher than the current adopted budget. The fiscal 2024 budget continues the investment in its greatest asset by recommending a 4.5% cost of living increase for employees. This accounts for both increases resulting from inflation while also maintaining the competitiveness of Craven County in the current labor market. Recommended in the fiscal 2024 budget are a total of 18 new full-time positions. I'm going to list those for you. 1 HR training and development coordinator, 1 opioid program manager, 1 fiscal grant specialist, 1 election specialist, 1 facilities system operations specialist, 1 deputy sheriff narcotics investigator, 1 deputy sheriff patrol, 4 deputy sheriff school resource officers, 1 telecommunicator 1 convenience site attendant, 1 social worker 2 adult service intake, 1 social worker 3 foster care, 1 social worker 3 permanency planning adoptions, 1 social worker IANT on call, and 1 staff development specialist 3 in social services. Total benefit costs are budgeted at approximately $2.3 million higher than the current fiscal year, mostly due to increases in the county's health and dental premiums and retirement system rates. So far this year, insurance claims are trending higher than last year. To help offset these additional costs on the county's self-insured plans, the budget includes a 5% increase to both county and employee premiums. The retirement system employer contribution rates are also scheduled to increase by 0.75% for general employees and 1% for law enforcement employees effective July 1st, 2023. This accounts for $892,000 of the total increase in benefit costs in next fiscal year's budget. Craven County is expected to receive $8,611,057 of Phase 1 opioid settlement funds between 2022 and 2038. And the Craven County Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution on March 20th, 2023, authorizing execution of a second phase opioid settlement. The exact funding to be awarded in connection with the second phase of the opioid settlement funds is unknown at this time, but is expected to be close to the amount awarded in Phase 1. The opioid settlement funds must be budgeted, expended, monitored, managed, and outcomes evaluated in accordance with the Memorandum of Agreement between the State of North Carolina and local governments on proceeds relating to the settlement of opioids, or what we've called it, the MOA. The requirements set forth in the MOA are extensive and beyond the capacity of the initial task force, which is currently commingled in the Human Resources Department budget. Craven County's opioid epidemic remediation efforts have evolved to the level necessitating the development of a new department and the creation of an opioid program manager position. This new opioid department budget includes $125,885 to continue the county's current opioid education outreach efforts that began in 2018. And it also includes $666,720 of Phase 1 opioid settlement funds, which will support the opioid program manager position and will provide funding for expanding the 4 opioid program focus areas. Overall current expense funding for Craven County Schools is recommended to remain flat at $22,004,991 per the Board of Education's request, and continues the county's investment and support for our local school system. Craven County Schools faces complex and varied budget challenges similar to that of Craven County. While the recommended funding amount continues Craven County's financial commitment to the school system, there are long-term issues that will need to be addressed in future budgets. As revenues from federal and state sources tied to enrollment continue to decline, the cost to operate and maintain aging school facilities does not. The issue will be ongoing and will likely need to be addressed over the next several budget cycles. Forecasted enrollment numbers by Craven County Schools continue to show a decline in enrollment trends that will continue over the next several years in all grade levels. The current budget request funds the retirement system contributions at 25.71%, health care premiums at $7,932 per employee, and the local supplement at 10.5%. The capital outlay requested is $2,095,475, an increase of $93,022 from the current year's budget, and includes 4 Category 1 capital projects over $100,000, which include resurfacing tracks at Havelock and West Craven High Schools, a new boiler for New Bern High School, and building a canopy over the walkway at Vanceboro Farm Life Elementary. There are various other capital repairs and enhancements throughout the school system, including boiler replacements, fencing work, and intercom upgrades. And also included in the capital outlay amount is $890,000, which continues the funding for the system's Apple iPad lease agreement. Proposed budget funds Craven Community College requested current expense at $4,304,125, which represents an increase of $239,504 over the current year. The requested increase will go towards additional operating and personnel costs for salaries, retirement, health benefits, utilities, and insurance. Capital outlay for the college was budgeted at the previously agreed upon baseline allocation of $500,000. Projects planned for this year include renovations and upgrades to the various classrooms, offices, and restrooms throughout the campus footprint, elevator upgrade at Brock Hall, and miscellaneous parking lot, sidewalk, and road repairs at both the New Bern and Havelock campuses. I'm winding down now. The proposed fiscal year 2024 budget provides balance and fiscal responsibility in addressing the many needs across the county, while also maintaining the lowest tax rate possible for the citizens of Craven County. By my math, it'll be in the top 10 lowest rates in North Carolina if you adopt a revenue-neutral rate. Craven County values the competitive edge maintaining a low tax rate offers in areas such as economic development and retirement relocations. As always, there's still the possibility the General Assembly may take actions that could affect this county budget. We'll continue to monitor for those potential impacts. However, I believe Craven County continues to be well positioned fiscally to address any challenges that may come forward. I wish to commend the department heads, staff, and agencies for their cooperation and valuable assistance in this very challenging budget process. And I'll say that with the underline under it. It was challenging this year. I'd like to thank particularly my budget team, and I'm going to recognize them individually, our finance director, Craig Warren, our assistant county manager, Gene Hodges, human resource director, Amber Parker, IT director, Steve Bennett. Thank you, Steve. Budget analyst, Sarah Williams. I don't believe she's here. She'll be with us later this afternoon. And, of course, assistant to the county manager, Lauren Wargo, back in the back. Thank you, Lauren. These folks provide essential contributions in developing this budget. It is a team effort here. So I was speaking with the commissioner this morning. I'm going off script a minute, which is dangerous, but I was speaking with the commissioner in my office. This is a months and months progress, commissioners. I mean, we start this right after the Christmas break, and we stay right in it till today. So this is like, we call it Super Bowl Monday. But anyway, I look forward to working with the Board of Commissioners and finalizing this year, fiscal year 2024 budget. The recommended budget shall immediately be available for public inspection in the manager's office, and it will also be posted on the county's website. I recommend that the board schedule a public hearing at 6 p.m. on Monday, June 5th, 2023, and conduct budget work sessions as required, submitted by the county manager today. Thank you, sir.
All right, the first item that the county manager has requested is to set the public hearing for June 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m., and it will be in this room.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Howard, a second from Commissioner Smith. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Hunt?
Yes.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Booker?
Yes.
Chairman Jones?
Yes. All right, Commissioners, are there any comments from anyone? Commissioner Howard.
Just point clarification, really. It says the local supplement at 10.5%. I thought when they presented an increase to like 12% or something like that, which I was confused when they did their presentation.
When they presented, they said the finance officer, Denise, had mentioned a 0.5% increase on the current supplement, which is 10%.
So they're 10.5%, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Commissioner Mitchell, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Chair, I do not.
Okay. All right. So after this regular session today, we will recess, allow staff opportunity to change the room around for the budget process, and then we will come back to begin budget discussions. Correct?
Got it. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
All right, Commissioners, item 8 is appointments. You have pending, current, and upcoming appointments. Does any commissioner have any pending appointments that they'd like to bring forth for consideration? Okay, hearing none. Staff, I will just tell all commissioners, I met, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, I did meet with staff week before last. We went over this list, and they are working on trying to get some clarifications on a number of these. I know commissioners have some individuals who they'd like to appoint to make sure that we have everybody in their correct position, and so we will. They will get that information back to us. We'll try to get this budget process over, and then we'll get back on that. All right, hearing nothing on pending, we will now go to current. You have there before you the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. You have the first one is a Health Department appointee, Ms. Roger, who seeks reappointment. What's the desire of the board?
I recommend we reappoint her.
Okay, we have a nomination of Ms. Roger. Do you have additional nominations from the board? Hear none, we will set by acclamation. The next applicant is Ms. Bullock, who seeks appointment as the sheriff designee.
I nominate Ms. Bullock.
Okay, we have a nomination of Ms. Bullock. Do I have additional nominations? Hear none, we will set by acclamation. And then the applicant of the Lieutenant Lewinsky, who was here today, who seeks appointment in lieu of Sheriff Hughes. Sheriff Hughes did discuss this with me. He cannot serve on but X number of boards, he's told by the state, and so he would have to step aside to allow someone else to serve on this. Do we have
I recommend Steve.
Okay, we have the nomination of the lieutenant. Are there additional nominations? Hearing none, we will set by acclamation. Next would be the Craven County Social Services Board. We have Ms. Gwen Bryan, who does seek reappointment.
I nominate Ms. Bryan.
Okay, we have a nomination of Ms. Bryan. Are there additional nominations? Hearing none, we will accept by acclamation. Are there other current that we have forgotten? Any commissioner have? All right, hear none. You see the upcoming terms expiring in June and early July. Please take note of those. There are a number of them to discuss. Any additional nominations, discussions today under appointments? Hear none, we will now go to the county attorney's report. Mr. Grady.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir. County manager's report, Mr. Vite.
Mr. Chairman, I said a whole lot this morning, and I'll say a whole lot the rest of this week, so I'll spare you
Okay.
the additional time right now.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we will now go to commissioners' report. Which commissioner would like to begin today?
I have no report, so
Okay.
move me.
All right, Commissioner Howard, thank you for starting us off. Commissioner Mitchell.
No report.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I had a town hall on May 8th, and I think it was a successful town hall. I'd like to thank the citizens for coming, and also the employees for their great presentations and clarifications of assignments and departments and their work. So I really thank them very much. Look forward to having another one not soon.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Hunt.
Well, after the last 2 weeks of being on a roller coaster ride between college graduations, fires, clean sweep efforts, power outages, and so many other things, good, up and down, up and down. I look forward to everything being calm for the next 2 weeks while we go through budget.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. Vice Chair Booker.
Yeah, the only thing I have is that we had a great group of Boy Scouts that participated in Clean Sweep in James City. We cleaned up, as you, I guess it would be the right side as you're going from New Bern, behind the Food Lion. We walked all those streets and picked up a lot of trash. So thank you to the Boy Scouts that participated.
Thank you, sir. As Commissioner Hunt referenced to, it's been an eventful past week in Craven County, definitely with the water outage down in Township 5. I commend staff for all that they did. I know you took a lot of calls. You did a good job in trying to communicate, as did staff. Something that happened that was not county's fault, but I think for the efforts that were put forth to try to ensure that folks had drinking water, you did the best job you could. And I know it was inconvenience to many, but thank the Lord it's back up and running. I think I've heard the boil the water advisory is not on the table anymore. We're not having to do that, so that's good. I commend everyone, our water department, thank you. Fire departments also, they played a great role, emergency management.
Can I
So
just
thank you.
say those
Yeah.
departments for the record? Township 6, Township 7, and the Harlow Volunteer Fire Departments certainly invaluable effort that night, getting it hooked back up.
Thank them all. So, also, I want to state that same night, or same day, we had the storm that went through the Vanceburg area. County manager and myself rode through last Wednesday morning. There are several areas, communities through the Vanceburg area that really suffered. It also went over, I think, over into the Bridgeton area, Fairfield Harbor area. I did not tour those areas. The county manager did, as well as the vice chair. He's looked at that, but it was a costly storm to many. But I think I rode through yesterday, again, looked at some of the roads, and I also want to thank our fire departments that represent those areas, Tri-Community, Little Swift Creek, the Vanceburg Fire Department. They all worked tirelessly through the night, and Duke Energy, I commend them for their efforts also. And the last thing I will state to Commissioner Howard, Commissioner Hunt, myself, had the opportunity of joining Commissioner Mitchell for the salute to our veterans on May the 9th. Commissioner Mitchell was the keynote speaker. A great event. I really enjoyed that. We've got a lot to be proud of in Craven County of our military installation. Also, for all the veterans that we have and active servicemen and women. We're a blessed county. It was a great event, and appreciate Commissioner Mitchell's comments she brought to everyone there. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate also. All right, Commissioners, anything else to bring before the board? It's 10:31. We're going to take a 30-minute recess. I'd ask everyone if they would be back in this room by 11 o'clock to begin budget discussions. Hearing nothing else, we'll take a 30-minute recess.